So first we will hear from Agneta Riesing to get this discussion started. Agneta Riesing became the Director General of the World Nuclear Association in 2013. She had previously served as Vice President for Environment at Vattenfall AB. In that post, she headed a pan-European department focused on energy, environment, and sustainability. Over the past 2 decades, Ms. Riesing has been appointed by the Swedish government, the EU Commission, and the International Atomic Energy Agency to several significant expert and advisory positions relevant to the safety and future development of nuclear power. She is also the co-founder and former president of Women in Nuclear. The floor is yours.
Oh, yes, it's on. Thank you very much. It's a great honor for me to be here, and I'm absolutely excited to be invited by the Nice Future Initiative and also the Polish government to be here today. And I would go straight into my speech because we will have more time for discussions later on then. So my first thing is a question. What will power our electric future? And I think what Nice Future Initiative is doing is, in fact, trying to get some answer to that. And climate change is the most significant threat to our planet today, and yet in 2017, global energy-related CO2 emissions rose by 1.4%, and current efforts to tackle climate change are simply not enough. We have the tools, but we are lacking the decisions. And we also heard from Fatih Birol that also 2018, the emissions will go up. So it's absolutely timely to take the decisions. And we are here in Katowice at COP24 to see governments coming together to agree the rule book to implement the Paris Agreement. The future decarbonization of the electricity sector is central to tackling climate change. Global electricity production accounts for 40% of total emissions, and coal and gas still dominates the generation and producing 63% of the world's electricity. Nuclear power is a low-carbon source of energy, and thanks to nuclear displacing fossil fuels, more than 60 gigatons of CO2 emissions have been avoided globally since 1970, equivalent to 5 years' worth of CO2 emissions from the electricity sector. Decarbonizing the electricity sector is a considerable challenge. The latest scenario set the bar very high, aiming for a total decarbonization of the electricity system by 2050. At the same time, a doubling of electricity consumption is expected due to population growth and the catching up of emerging countries, and, of course, more uses of electricity. Our electric future. Let's see if I can do this one. Globally, operable nuclear capacity surpassed 400 gigawatt for the first time this year on the 27th of October with the grid connection of Tianwan-4, a VVR 1000 unit in China's Jiangsu province. Global nuclear generation exceeded 2,500 terawatt hours for the first time in 5 years in 2017, and with nuclear supplying 10.5% of the world's electricity needs. Around the world, in 18 countries, 54 new reactors are under construction. In 2018, new reactors with a total capacity of 10.4 gigawatt have started up, and that is the highest total since the 1980s. And next year, that record is scheduled to be broken again with nearly 50 gigawatt of new capacity coming online. The first reactors being built in Belarus and the UAE are nearing completion. And in Turkey, construction started this year on the first of 4 nuclear reactors at Akuyu, with the first unit due to come online in 2023. In Bangladesh this year, work started on its second reactor, following on from the first unit where construction started in 2017. Poland, COP24's host nation, announced its draft energy strategy published on the 22nd of November that it expects its first nuclear power plant to be running by 2033, with nuclear capacity growing to 6 to 9 gigawatt by 2043. The Polish energy minister Krzysztof Czarnecki said, "The nuclear power plant will help us accelerate carbon emission reductions." This is an example of coming from United Nations, the Deep Decarbonization Pathways Project, published 2016, and it was a collaboration between the United Nations, Sustainable Development Solutions Network, and the Institute for Sustainable Development in International Relations. And as you see from this chart, you see that it was only 16 countries taking part in this. 13 of these countries increased nuclear a lot in order to meet their targets. So this is example of backcasting made in these 16 countries. And you see that nuclear comes out as one of the largest sources for electricity to be used. I'll go with the next one. So despite massive investment, renewable energies alone will not be enough to achieve the decarbonization that is required. A recent study by the MIT shows that the cost of decarbonizing electricity is much lower when the mix includes substantial amounts of nuclear working together with renewables. And as you see, if you are like in the middle of the chart, if you have nuclear and renewables together, the cost is not rising. But if you go to a substantial amount of renewables in the system and you like to go to decarbonization, you see that the cost grows exponentially. So it is a good mix of renewables and nuclear that will make a cost-effective decarbonization. The nuclear industry's Harmony goal of supplying 25% of the world's electricity from nuclear energy by 2050 is a vital element of a credible response to climate change. To achieve this will require the construction of 1,000 gigawatt of new nuclear capacity. The Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change published its latest report detailing what would be needed to limit global climate change to 1.5 degrees above pre-industrial levels. The IPCC report noted that the scalability and speed of scaling of nuclear plants have been high in many nations, highlighting the case of France, which successfully decarbonized much of its electricity mix in under 20 years by establishing a generation mix predominantly supplied by nuclear power. But it isn't just France. New nuclear build has been the most effective way to rapidly decarbonize electricity generation, outpacing other low-carbon technologies. We can also see examples from Sweden, Switzerland, and the province of Ontario that have been able to decarbonize. As well as new countries for nuclear, and we have more of those, and more countries realize they need nuclear in the mix if they're going to have a sustainable energy future. But we also see there's new technologies being developed. Next year, should see the startup of 2 floating reactors at Pevek on the remote north coast of Russia. Each of them 35 megawatts reactors will supply electricity and heat to an area that would otherwise be powered by diesel generators. Also scheduled to start up is the Xiduan high-temperature reactor in China. High-temperature reactors offer the potential to diversify the range of applications to which nuclear technologies can be applied. High-temperature reactors could also process heat to industry or be used for hydrogen production. Nuclear power today is growing, producing more electricity and operating in more countries. And new reactor designs are bringing improved performance and the potential to apply nuclear technologies to new applications and new locations. And also, as Sarah said in the beginning, to Arctic regions, but also to islands that have small electricity grids. But to reach the goals of the Paris Agreement to decarbonize global electricity generation, we need to do even more. And the nuclear industry is committed to supply 25% of electricity by 2050. But that's needed a lot of action by governments as well. Industry has to play their part, but government has also to take away some of the barriers. And we need a level playing field. We cannot work without a level playing field. We need technology-neutral framework and policies. And also we need harmonized regulatory processes. It becomes extremely expensive to move a small modular reactor from one country to another country if every licensing has to start from the beginning and redone again. And governments also need to create an effective safety paradigm focusing on public well-being, reducing air pollution, and looking to the health of people and the planet, and take the right decisions for the future. We see in this graph how we need to step up. We saw learned from the IPCC reports that said nuclear needs to grow roughly 2.5 times. We say nuclear should grow at least 3 times from current level. And some people would then say, no, you cannot grow that much. Of course we can, because the supply chain is ready. There's everything ready, and this is proven technology, and you can buy it off the shelf. And in the mid-1980s, we had the rate of construction as what we need to do today as well. But we also need to ensure that we use the best talents of all society to fulfill these objectives. I'm a co-founder and former president of Women in Nuclear, a global organization which supports and encourages women working in nuclear industry throughout the world. While there has been progress, the nuclear industry still has much to do to recruit more women and ensure equal representation at all levels of seniority. And as I have mentioned, governments have a key role in creating a policy that enables the maximum contribution from nuclear energy. We also need to see full representation of women among governments so that all of society can see themselves properly represented and in all parts of the value chain of nuclear. Better representation of all sectors of society and other key decision-making bodies will help improve society's trust in these decision makers as well as in the industry. And we need this for having a transition. Transition needs all the best talents and perspectives from all different stakeholders and also diversity. Those decision makers here at COP24 have the most immediate goal to achieve to ensure the Paris Agreement rulebook encourage and enables all the low carbon technologies, including nuclear energy, so they can fulfill their full potential. Thank you very much.